Today's show, I got my son, Holden Co. We're here to talk about the next generation of hunters. How old are you, Holden?
12.
And what grade are you in?
6th grade.
What school do you go to?
Perryville Middle School.
Alright. And so when did you start hunting? Give me a little background on your hunting.
I believe I started hunting about 1 year ago. About my third hunt, I shot my first doe.
Wasn't it your second hunt?
I believe it was my second or third hunt, maybe.
Okay.
I remember in the morning hunt, I shot, I think, a 70-pound doe. And then in the afternoon, right before we were about to go, I shot an 8-point buck.
Who you hunting with?
I was hunting with my grandfather, Papa.
Yeah,
Mike Littleton.
Mike Littleton. Alright, so you're both sitting in a stand, I take it, and what?
Yeah. What happened during that afternoon hunt is 2 does passed us, and then we saw Spike come by. Then we also saw a 6-point that I wanted to shoot. However, he said to wait for something else to come. After that, we didn't see many deer. I fell asleep in the stand during that time. And right after we're about to leave, he wakes me up and we find an 8-point buck scratching the tree right next to us, right underneath the stand, about 20 yards away from us.
Alright, so you had all your equipment, you were shooting a crossbow, correct?
Yes, it was a Baronet Ghost 365.
Okay, so you're sitting there and you admitted you fell asleep, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And then he woke you up.
Yeah, he woke me up, and then he doesn't say anything at first, but then he points down there, and then I see the rack of the deer.
All right. So how old were you at that moment?
I believe I was about 11 and a quarter.
Okay. So you're hunting with Pop-Up. This is the first time, second time you're in the stand. What made you get into hunting?
A lot of people in the family were doing it, like my grandfather was, John was, Rara was, all of them, and then tried it out for a little bit.
So Rara's your cousin, John's a family friend.
Yes.
And okay, so you wanted to try it out.
Yeah, and
Okay.
see what was it all about.
What was your first impressions of it?
First impression was it required a lot of patience, a lot of money to start it, and many other things to kickstart hunting.
Okay, so you got your equipment, so you got that for your birthday and Christmas, and you went through the hunter safety course that Maryland requires, and you went with your pop-up, Mike Littleton, and you passed the course, and so you're in the tree and you're hunting, and you shoot a doe, and then you shoot an 8-point buck.
Yes, both right next to each other. We have the stream stand, and there was a stand right behind that, and in the morning we hunted the stream stand, and then the stand right behind it is where I shot my buck.
Where were you hunting at?
Eastern Shore.
All right, of Maryland.
Yes.
Okay. So, were you enjoying it? I mean, up until that point before you shot your buck, were you enjoying it?
Yeah, I was seeing all the deer and all that. It was really fun. And after shooting that first doe, pulling the trigger for the first time, that was also a lot of fun.
Okay. Now I'm going to give you a little background on Holden. You consider yourself technology advanced. You're good at games and computers and stuff like that, right?
Yes.
Okay, and that's what you enjoy. Like you enjoy playing video games and technology and robotics and all that stuff.
Yes.
Okay, so this is a complete different field than that. So did you really want to hunt, or did you just want to be out there doing it with your cousin and your pop-up and so on?
Partly a little bit of both. Like I wanted to kind of see why they kept leaving and hunting and all of that, and what the big deal was, and Pop had all his deer hung up on the wall, and I saw how big they were.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of got me interested a little bit, and to see if I could get one of those.
And so you got one, and you got it mounted, and it's on your wall. But then you came to me, when was it, like, June, July? And you said you wanted to take some time off from hunting, right?
Yes.
Okay. What was your reasoning for that? Now be honest, because, I'm not your father at this point. This is for, people listening out there that are having same issues at home. And, we're trying to give them a little bit of information on what they can do.
Yeah, so, like, after I shot that first buck, I saw a couple more deer. We didn't really get anything, and there were certain people out there who were messing up the woods a little bit, like making too much noise, not spraying down, things like that. And some people were shooting a lot more often, like with guns and all that. So, like, after after all those incidents that have occurred during hunting, I was about to start middle school, 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
I had course and things that I could have done, but I decided to do tech ed on my course period, so I had a choice of either one, and I chose to do tech ed, which I'm doing right now.
Alright, so you're hunting, you hunted the rest of the 2017-18 season, correct?
Yes.
Alright. And how was the rest of that season for you?
Not as many deer, I believe. It might have been something that I've done wrong in the tree stands.
Yeah, so let's get to that. So, after you had shot that buck and the doe, your grandfather kind of let you go. He thought you were ready enough to shoot and be in a stand by yourself. We both did. As your parent, we both felt that you were responsible enough to sit in a stand by yourself. Now, when you got in that stand, what were you doing?
Like
And remember, be honest.
Yeah.
You're helping people out here.
Yeah, for like the first hunt that I had, I was really excited and all that. It was single man stand, was by myself, kept a lookout. I did at one point during that hunt see a vulture swoop down and eat a squirrel, and I believe I saw one doe that day.
Okay. Now, did you find it hard to, when you're sitting with Pop in the stand, and I know how he is and how he emphasizes, sitting there, be still, don't move. If you're going to look around, move your head slowly and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Were you able to do that on your own?
I don't think I was able to do it as well. What I think happened was I may have been turning my head a bit too fast, especially when that vulture swooped down. Kind of startled me a little bit, and I kind of whipped my head around, which might have alerted deer nearby that I was there.
Well, okay. So, now you had your cell phone out there also, right?
Yes.
Okay, and so did you find yourself that you were getting bored and that you were playing on your cell phone? Or
Yes, after like the first 2 hunts by myself, I started getting bored with it because I wasn't seeing as many deer. I only saw maybe a doe hunt or possibly a spike.
Were you still doing what Pop had taught you? Sitting in a stand, sitting still, not moving?
Yes, I was still sitting still, keeping a lookout. I sprayed down, scraped my boots, all of that.
Okay. So then, on your 4th hunt or so after that, you were getting bored?
Yes, so what I did is I had my phone with me,
Mm-hmm.
and I muted everything, so calls were muted, everything was muted, and I pulled it out and played games on it while I waited for the hunt to be over.
So, do you feel that you probably missed some deer?
I believe I missed some deer, yeah, but I mean, by how dead it was back then from my first 2 hunts, I guess I felt like there wasn't as many deer there was, or that could have been something that I did. But I guess that I just was getting bored with it, and yeah, I probably missed maybe during that time, maybe at 4 to 5 deer.
Okay. All right. Well, at least you're honest. So, you're bored with hunting,
Yes.
but you continue doing it.
Yes.
What was the reason why you continue doing it?
Part of it was because I was kind of expecting a turn of events. Like you guys would say, like there was a buck on the property during that time. But the only got things that you guys said were like 6 points, maybe 7 points.
Mm-hmm.
And does 4 points, things like that on the property. But I was kind of aiming to go for an 8 point or higher.
Mm-hmm.
And the elk we were seeing on the cameras, but Rara took the stand that the elk kept going to and all of that.
Rara's your cousin.
Yes.
Yeah. So you were
A bit discouraged at that moment.
because you felt that you couldn't go after the elk,
Part
or
of it because
or because you weren't seeing larger bucks.
yes, I wasn't seeing any of those bucks. And I always thought a little bit that the elk would come by. And when we first shot that first buck, we didn't get a clear glimpse of the rack, but we knew it was a big rack. And at first we thought it was the elk, but then we kind of thought about it and we thought maybe a 10 point at the highest,
Mm-hmm.
and it turned out being a large 8 point.
Okay. So you're hunting, and so a little background on the day that when you hunt with Pop-Up Mike Littleton. So we get in there, an hour before daylight, and sunrise, and we're sitting there, and then around usually 10:30, 11, we come out and go get breakfast or lunch, and then try to get back into the stand at 1, 2 in the wintertime. Early season, it's sooner than that because the deer are moving a little bit more. I have found at this property. So you're bored and you're not seeing the bucks. Now, do you think that when you were playing your video games and moving, I mean, you had to be moving while you're in the stand a little bit.
Yeah, I think I moved like once in a while, like if my leg fell asleep, I might move it a little bit to try and get it back awake.
Mm-hmm.
Or things like that. Or my neck might cramp up a little bit, I might roll it.
All right, so do you think that you were part of the problem of why the deer weren't there?
Possibly, depending on how many deer walked by me while I was doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, most of the time I wasn't moving.
Okay.
And I didn't really notice them. They might have seen me when I was moving and I didn't notice it. Or they might have seen they might have seen the wind blow it up and they might have seen me or something.
Okay. Your generation is more of the video game playing and
Yeah, more technology based, such as social media, things like that, and a bunch of other things like hoverboards were coming out, things like that were just coming out.
But you would rather be playing the video games than hunting.
Yes.
Okay. So you come to me in June and you say you want to take a break from hunting.
Yes.
All right. So explain what was your thought process going into that.
Like as I said, there was middle school coming up, and I did want to play games a little bit more and all of that. And hunting, I didn't get as much fun from. However, with these food plots that we've been installing, I do believe that more deer are going to be coming by, and your cameras have proved that to us.
Mm-hmm.
And with all of that, I will be going hunting out a little bit, but maybe not as often, because I do plan to get into some clubs this year, things like that, after school clubs.
Like the robotics clubs and...
Yes, robotics, 3D printer club, things like that.
What's 3D printer?
They call it Makerspace, and it involves computer coding. You make 3D prints, things like that.
Cool. Now that's actually pretty interesting. But so you got bored with hunting, and your cousin, who's playing 2 sports this fall, football and baseball, isn't going to be hunting until around November. And you said, I mean, you two are kind of close, so you kind of wanted to be hunting when he was hunting.
Yes, and also for like my birthday and Christmas, which is coming up real soon, I wanted to think about different presents this year because I remember I needed like early season long sleeve shirts, things like that for early season.
Okay. And so you didn't want to waste your birthday on getting hunting gear?
No.
Alright.
Because I have the necessary clothes for mid-season, late season, and I could hunt during those times as well. So I plan hunting the end of October, beginning of November-ish.
Now, do you plan on going out in the stand and playing your games?
No, learned from previous mistakes and all that, like I missed deer most likely, and so I'm not going to do that at all.
But, don't get me wrong, there's people that that go out and hunt and they sit in the stand. And of course, if you're new to hunting or if you're, you haven't, look, you're in that world where my phone goes off 24/7 because of work and so on, that you kind of sit there and you're either on social media. As an adult, I'm on social media. And there's times that I caught myself that I'm sitting on, Instagram or Facebook or reading emails or something. So there's that point. But why don't you go and, you remember when Pop caught you in the stand?
Yes.
All right, so why don't you talk about that for a second?
So I was sitting in my stand playing deer hunter game, actually.
But how are you sitting?
I was sitting with my back kind of slouched a little bit and with my head down.
Okay, so your feet weren't on the seat and you weren't laying on the ground?
Mm-mm.
Oh,
No.
okay, see, that's what he told me. All right, so go on.
Yeah, so I was sitting on the seat. My feet were on the bottom of the tree stand.
Mm-hmm.
And I was slouched over and I had my phone in my lap. And I was playing Deer Hunter 2017 when I hear a whistle and I pick up my head and I look around a little bit and I thought it could have been a bird or something, and then he whistles again. And it took about 2 more whistles before I actually found him because he was wearing his camouflage mask and I couldn't see him at all.
Alright, so what did he say to you when you came down?
He said that he thought I was sleeping, and then he said that he found out that I was playing my games, and he said that we were going to talk to you about it.
Yeah, alright, so what went through your head then? Were you done with hunting at that point? Were you thinking to yourself, okay, I really don't want to do this anymore?
A little bit, but the main thing that went in my head was getting in trouble for not keeping a lookout for deer and things.
Well, and then also, the light from your phone and the distraction and possibly being seen and so on and so on. Alright, so what did we do? Like, he didn't tell me for a while, though. I mean, it was the end of the season when he told me. Wasn't it?
I thought it was that same exact day we were going back home and we were picking up dinner when he told you in the car.
How did I react?
I believe you looked back at me and asked if that was true, and I think I said yes.
Uh-huh.
And then Pop gave you his side of the story from his point of view.
Oh, okay. And then what came of all that?
I believe that I was punished for my phone for about 2 weeks, maybe-ish.
Okay.
And I think I did maybe 1 more hunt then.
When was that exactly? Was that in January?
I want to say it was... Actually, I cannot remember. It might have been January.
Yeah, and our season ends January, so at the end of January, February 1st. So, alright, so you got in trouble for playing your video games and not hunting.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, of course, had to make you mad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that kind of puts a bad taste in your mouth for hunting because you got in trouble when you lost your phone for 2 weeks.
Yes.
Okay, so that would be one reason why you didn't want to hunt.
A little bit, yes.
Okay. And back to my question though, do you think you could actually go out and sit in a stand and actually hunt and not be bored enough to get on your phone and play games?
after those previous experiences, I believe that I can, but I may not be able to do it as long as like our normal hunt span, which ranges from about 3 to 4 to 5 hours sometimes.
Okay, so let's talk. All right, so you got bored with hunting. What can parents like myself and other parents out there do for you technology of kids? Where you guys have to constantly be not distracted, but I guess the term would be
I guess mentally active or physically active.
yeah, like, where it's not just you're actually having to do something. You can't just sit there and look at nature. Your generation is all about playing.
Very like fast-paced things, like the most popular games for kids and teens right now would be shooting games, because most of the time they're very fast-paced.
Yeah.
They're strategic and all of that.
Okay, so with that being said, what without allowing you, I guess, to play video games in the stand, what could a parent do? So you think you only have the tolerance, the attention tolerance to be able to sit there for maybe like a morning hunt, and be able to not play your video games, but then in the afternoon, you wouldn't go hunting. You would sit there and play your video games back in the trailer or something.
Yes, that's kind of what happened most of the time. I know in the mornings, it's kind of a bit drowsy, tired-ish, because just woke up, and it wasn't part of my normal wake-up time. It's usually like 6-ish, maybe 5-ish during like late season, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And after all of that, it usually ranged in the afternoon hunts once like my brain actually kind of woke up and started needing that mental exercise.
What if, like, because we stay in an RV when we're down there on the hunting property.
Yes.
So what if we let you sleep in the morning, and then we'd come back after the morning hunt, you'd go to breakfast with us, and then you would hunt the afternoon? Would that be an option?
That would be a triable option. I mean, we haven't really tried it at all yet. But
I'm not saying we're gonna actually do it. Like, again, I'm not one of those parents that will force you to do something. But what I am is I won't allow you to just sit at home and play video games. You got to be doing something. You got to have activity or something. So, what could parents nowadays do to keep their kids active in hunting with the technology? Like, so what we did was, we started filming our hunts, and that was something that you were interested in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but even that, when it was presented to you, you kind of didn't want to do that anymore. When you could have came out with us and filmed the hunts, you kind of didn't want to do that anymore either.
Yeah, I think it was probably because like you would film and all that, and it's very hard to grasp to film in a tree stand, because it's not like social media nowadays. You just hold a button and it's a lot easier to move around. In the tree stand, you have to be able to move slowly, quietly, all of that, and you have to make sure that you zoom in the correct way. You have to make sure that you're not moving it too quick, otherwise deer might see it or the footage might be blurred.
So that didn't help you to satisfy that electronics need.
No, like, I mean, if it was a little bit simpler or maybe easier to accomplish, then possibly, because now things are complicated, but for kids and all that, hitting buttons and things like that is very easy. Like, chickens have the mental capacity to hit a button to turn on a heater. Well, kids and all that, like, they're slow to learn about it, and that's why games now have like tutorials and things like that to help you learn. And then as they start learn, it kind of just becomes like a habit of mind. Like, you just kind of think about it. You don't really think about it. It's kind of just comes naturally after a little bit.
All right, so again, what would you suggest to parents out there that have kids that are like you, technology based, want to be involved in technology, but the parents still want the kids to hunt?
It's a really hard question, and I'd have to give some thought to it. But right now, I think that, like, try not and to force it upon them, but I mean, like, drop little hints there and now, and give them, like, regular time, like maybe an hour a day or something when they're not hunting, things like that. And that should help them most of the time, but now, like, the new games that are out, some of them range, like, one match of a shooting game can last up to 2 hours sometimes. And so that hour a day, just ranging on it, it would be good to learn what your kids are doing, like online games and all of that. Kind of learn what they're playing, learn, like, the basics of it, like how long a match takes in some games and things like that.
Okay, but how is that? Yeah, by allowing you to, play the video games an hour a day or something like that, how is that going to get the kid back into the stand if he truly doesn't want to be there?
I guess it would kind of get it out of their system, sort of. Like, say the day before a hunt, you let them sleep maybe 30 minutes past their bedtime or something, and then get it out of their system and be ready for the tomorrow hunt. But as, like you said, I would be good for a morning hunt, afternoon hunt. My brain would need that electronic exercise.
So you find it to actually be an exercise. You actually find it to be, so what you're saying is that it does. Obviously the tests have been done that it stimulates your brain. And it was supposed to work on your eye-hand coordination. But really, it's not. Do you think you're addicted to video games?
I believe yes, but not as, like, some video game addicts who do it, like, for a living and things like that.
No, addiction, I mean that you struggle with, if you had the opportunity, you would sit there and play all day long.
Yes, if I had the opportunity, then I would grasp that opportunity and take it.
And you would just do it all day long. Like, you actually think about playing video games.
Yes, during most of the time, like, some games when they get updates and things, I'll think about that. And it kind of helps most of the time because then you have something to think about. And in school and all of that, like during lunchtime or recess or whatever, you can talk to your friends and all that, and it's a common thing that all kids are kind of related to. Like, now kids won't be, like, separate from, like, their classes, clothes, things like that, because most of the newest games, things like that, it kind of bonds kids together.
So you make friends with kids that play video games?
Yes, almost all of my friends in school play video games.
Okay, do any of them hunt?
A couple of them do hunt, yes. I believe 2 of them hunt.
So they do hunt?
Yes.
Are they hunting now?
I believe so, yes.
So what do they do when they're hunting?
They haven't really discussed that with me at all, but I just know that they prefer crossbows most of the time. They go into the stand usually with a parent, or they may do, like, a short hunt by themselves.
Okay, so when they do it by themselves, do they still take their video games and they're playing their video games in the stand?
As far as I've been told, no, they don't. But that's not something that I can really qualify because, again, they haven't really talked too much about hunting. No,
so for you, again, you gave one suggestion of what parents could do to continue the interest. No, maybe you didn't give it. You didn't give it. So, as a parent, what could a parent do to keep the interest of hunting and the outdoors and fishing? And well, you love fishing, though. I mean, you.
Yes.
Yeah, you love fishing. Now, the reason that you have to admit is because it doesn't take us long to get fish. Mm-hmm. Like we go out and it's 5 minutes and we're getting a fish.
Yes.
So
and
it's that excitement.
yeah, it's that like excitement, and it's very strategic as well, which kind of gives that brain exercise that most kids nowadays need in order to.
Are you saying that hunting is not strategic enough to keep your interest?
I believe so, but I mean for kids, I think it's very expensive, and so is fishing. Like all the new fishing gear is very expensive.
But you didn't buy any of that. So what does that have to do with the strategic of stimulating your brain?
I think it's because sometimes the environments are a bit harsher than on the water. Like on the boat, have
so you don't like the cold.
breeze. I love the cold actually. Like I could sleep in the AC. But I know like some prickly bushes, things like that, could get kids to get a bad taste.
Wait a minute, what? What do you mean prickly bushes?
Thicker bushes, things like that, could ruin their hunts if they don't have the necessary gear to protect them from those environments.
Okay, maybe you missed it. So, alright, so let's go back for a minute. So, we're talking about stimulating the mind, and in fishing, you said it stimulates your mind like a video game does.
Yes, I think it's because it's more fast-paced, and that's just like how most video games nowadays work.
Alright,
Fast-paced, a bit challenging depending on the size of the fish, what kind of fish, things like that.
But that kind of fishing isn't everyday fishing.
No, it isn't. Like some days you might catch 30 fish, but some days you can only catch 3 fish. It all kind of depends on luck, weather, all of that, where you're fishing, what you're using, all of that kind of sways the chances of the amount of fish you get and what kind.
Yeah, so, I mean, you could be sitting out there and not getting any bites.
Yes, you could, and that's all, and I guess that's also kind of related to what kids have, because sometimes if they don't play the correct way, then that could mess up their chances, and excuse me, and they wouldn't get the same amount of excitement. But I think it's also that chance that also keeps bringing kids back, because they think that they'll have a much higher chance than hunting, say for fishing or games and
Alright,
things
but
like that.
I mean, it was your first year, and you went out and on your first weekend, pretty much, got a doe and an 8-point buck. That would be enough for anybody to say, oh, I want to keep trying to see if I can get another one.
That's kind of how it started off for me. I was interested still, even after that. Saw how big they can get and realized that it was the deer I shot. And so hunted, and then I started seeing actually how slow it truly was. Like, it's not always fast. Some seasons, like fishing, you can see so many deer, and some seasons you can only see one doe.
Okay, I'm going to leave it at there for right now, and we will come back and finish this conversation.